They go, yeah.
They'll switch to Netflix. There's too many entertainment options. So I was sitting there like the first time it happened, what can I do? And I looked over at my backpacks of the gear that runs on Speedify. You paid for a year of it. You can use it on any computer or device. So I just pulled out my one of several hotspots I have, hooked it up, cranked up Speedify, and it has never been a problem since.
We used the Speedify software at a command line level, so it's not running a whole UI which is starting to drain resources. It's really very, very base level. And the really clever people at the BBC got it all working, and we're now presenting whole programs every single day of the year have been presented using this technology. All our weather reports from our weather presenter are done already.
If I look back at my original lives, they are awful. They're terrible. But we all start somewhere and we all get better. And every time you go live and every time you get on camera, you're going to get a little bit more comfortable.
You saw part of
Really?
it? Cool.
Nice. All right, we are famous. You want to say hi to everybody? Now you're on the video. So wave. That's the camera right there. Nice. All right. We are going back to look at this guy's house. It has a lot of white lights.
There he is. Hey, Christian.
Fine.
Tap your light on the back so you can see when it's how it's live.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so these lights
do have RGB mixing, so if you want to do each color, you can mix them independently. Within the app, there are a couple features, and I'll just go show you this.
See power. There we go.
Woo! Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Is just building budget aesthetic gaming PCs, and I have my studio here now, so we've graduated away from the basement of my house and whatnot.
Also, I would say streaming kept me from going completely insane when I was in that hotel room for 2 weeks when I first got to Australia.
So raising awareness is really going to help break that stigma. We definitely have a stigma in our society where it's, not okay for folks to be open about their medical conditions. It's kind of seen as shameful.
We have, all of us have these amazing cameras, Apple, Samsung, Google.
We have customers come in all the time who say, oh, I watched this stream and I came in from out of town and I knew we had to stop here.
We build custom PCs for a lot of content creators, gamers, you name it, businesses, colleges, esports.
And then I do a lot of thought leadership talking and trying to educate the industry on the value of techifying, as I call it, their events, and been doing that for a long time.
The first 2 years of live streaming was actually just myself. I was kind of acting as a community manager.
You know what? I never used to think that people wanted to cared about what I wanted to say, but now I actually, I'm like, you know what?
I care. I care, Gina.
You've got to put it out there. You've just got to put it out there, and someone will listen.
I used to actually be solely mobile, so I used to teach people how to edit using KineMaster, which is just a mobile app. Really, really cool app.
But I love the process of both. I love the editing process, the scripting process, and things like that of recorded videos. But nothing for me also beats the buzz that you get from pressing the go live button.
Welcome. It's Speedify Live, and I'm your host, Alex Gizis. This is the live stream about live streaming, brought to you by Speedify. This is the show where we practice what we preach, rather, and take Speedify live. So we talk to all sorts of people in the live streaming world. I mean, you just saw that intro. We talk to live streamers, professional gamers, DJs, people who make software, and today, super excitingly, we are going to be talking with Blackmagic Design, right? The people behind like the ATEM Mini, a lot of the gear that a lot of our guests have been talking about using. We are live. We're totally live. So we see your comments underneath. So if you have questions for me, for the guest, you just post them and we'll answer. Give us a follow or subscribe or like. I don't know where you're watching because we're streaming to lots of places. We're on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. So whatever that button says, mash it so that you know next time we're live, because we do lots of these interesting streams with fantastic guests and you don't want to miss them. And finally, if there are people you want to see on the stream, people from other companies, streamers that you're huge fans of, post the names underneath. These days we ask people to be on the show and they say, yes, I'd love to be. So you just tell us who you want. We can probably get them. So our special guest today, as I hinted, is Bob Caniglia, the Director of Sales Operation at Blackmagic Design. So they are a video technology company that wants to help creativity bloom. They started in 2002 with the DeckLink capture card, and they have become one of the world's leading manufacturers of creative video technology. They make everything from the ATEM Mini to a lot of those giant control boards that you see people, editing movies on and stuff. It's a helpful product catalog. You should check it out. Blackmagic Design. If you're not familiar with their products, you might want to page through it in another tab. So they have stuff for the professional video makers, for television broadcast, to live streaming, and stuff for regular people. So let's bring Bob on. That's enough of me. Hey,
Hello.
Bob. It's nice to have you here on Speedify Live.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be live. That way I don't have to record anything because
that's right.
It needs editing.
I mean, the recordings will end out on YouTube if you want to have a hack at them. But
No.
I mean, part of how this show started was we used to try to make videos, and we would spend 60 hours editing to get 2 good minutes, and I mean, that's probably just right for doing a truly professional job, but it just was too painful. So forget it. We're going live. We're talking for an hour. What we get is what we get. And
I like it.
Yeah. So how have you been?
I've been pretty good. I spent a lot of time on live streams the last couple of years, but I'm starting to get used to it. Although travel is back too, so it's combo time, right? A little bit of both.
That's right. Hybrid. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, what do you do at Blackmagic Design?
Right. So I'm Director of Sales Operations for the Americas. So that really means that I assemble a team that goes out and does the trade shows mostly, right? So we do trade shows. So we need product experts on the show floor, the trade shows, and the technical expertise to build the booths and things like that. And then I do a lot of this. I do a lot of the press interaction. And then I handle some of the sales stuff with the reseller channel. We don't sell products direct, but we use a wide network of resellers that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with.
Yeah. So how did Blackmagic start?
Sure. So Blackmagic started in 2002. A couple of guys that wanted to get video inside a Mac, basically. So they built the DeckLink card. Those were the first cards that came out that you could take real video inside a computer and use it for editing and things like that, and getting basically at the time the high-end standard def in and out of the card with a 10-bit capture card. But over time they started to build other products, and the thing is that Grant Petty's CEO worked in post-production. So he worked at a place that had telecines, you know, the old school days of color correction and things, and a lot of other. So he knew post-production very well. So, and those are what he was trying to do, is enable the masses for post-production. And over time, it led to video routers and, you know, cameras. They acquired DaVinci in 2009. That's when I came over. So I always say I was the youngest guy at DaVinci and became the oldest guy at Blackmagic overnight. So yeah, it's been 13 years, but that's still pretty consistent. But the thing about it is that he has amassed a lot of other technologies along the way to help round it out, and ATEM was one of them. There was a company called Ecolab that we bought, and they had ATEM switchers, and then it just kind of kept growing.
I didn't realize that was an acquisition. Okay.
Yeah, so that was an acquisition, you know, years ago, you know, long before the ATEM Minis were around. And yeah, they acquired Teranex, which made standards converters. They acquired Sintel, which made the original film scanners back in the 20s of last century. Now that we're in the 20s of this one, so yeah, they have quite a lot of good acquisitions over the years. Fairlight for audio, Fusion for visual effects. That all got wrapped into DaVinci Resolve. I mean, DaVinci Resolve, when I first came to Blackmagic, if there were 200 people who knew how to run Resolve, I would say that was a lot. And today it's millions and millions. So it's kind of crazy. And it also has pages of editing and visual effects and audio and all these other things. At the time, it was basically just color correction. So it really has grown over the last 13 years.
Interesting. So how do you guys decide, you know, when to expand your product line? And I guess the other question is, when do you decide when to launch a new product and when to acquire a new company?
Right. I mean, all good questions. The truth is, I think that I like to say that we have a lot of planes orbiting around the airport at Blackmagic, and then Grant, the CEO, he kind of tends to say, all right, we're landing this plane now. And that's sort of how it goes. We use trade shows to get feedback from customers. A lot of times when they give us, you know, what needs that they have, a lot of it confirms products that we have coming down the road, right? So the R&D guys like to go and kind of get that out there. And frankly, there are times where suddenly things have to change. The pandemic is a perfect example where a lot of products got pushed aside so that we could bring out more ATEM Minis and more streaming gear so that we could enable people to work from home and do what we're doing now. And that was amazing how they were able to change that way and anticipate those needs, because the ATEM Mini, the original one, only, I guess it was started shipping about 3 months before we locked down. And then since then we've introduced, I don't know, 6 different models or something like that. So it's crazy. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we are live, so if you have questions, post them in the comments. I see some of you have discovered that already. Quiet Galaxy asks, how does DaVinci color correction compare to Premiere or Final Cut?
Well, I'd say that DaVinci's got the longest history of color correction in terms of the software availability today. And today it's still used by all the top guys doing movies and TV shows and things like that. It's really robust. Now, in addition to the color correction side of it, it's also a full app, and everybody can try it for free. So if you want to download it from blackmagicdesign.com, you can get a feel for it right away. And there's lots of tutorials, not only on our site, but other places. It's amazing the information that people share. When I worked in post in Hollywood back in the forever ago, 90s, you know, nobody shared information like they do today. That's for sure.
All right.
Let's see what else we have.
Marby. The Sintel collab is awesome. Yeah, so you have a lot of stuff now for collaborative.
Yeah, so there's a lot of collaboration.
I guess that's where it's at, right?
Well, right. So, he's talking about the Sintel, which is the film scanner that we have too. But we also have a collaborative workflow that we've kind of expanded recently by enabling some cloud sharing of projects. So we have the Blackmagic Cloud service. It's like $5 a month for the person that wants to store their library with projects, and then they can share it with as many people as they like for free. And this way people can work on the same project at the same time. So, you know, you shoot the project, but you edit it, but you need a colorist somewhere else, and they can work that way. And then we have some other tools in DaVinci Resolve to be able to move the files back and forth through, say, Dropbox or Google Drive or things like that. So we've really expanded the idea to be able to collaborate around the globe. We had some of those tools available for the higher end guys that like did their own servers for projects and things like that. But now we're kind of letting everybody have access to it, which is cool.
Nice. All right. Marby asks, Bob, what's your setup? So what's
well,
your actual setup? Like what camera, computer?
Yeah. Sure. So I have a MacBook Pro as my computer. I have a Blackmagic Pocket 6K camera straight on. Even have a teleprompter if I need it. I have a DaVinci. I have a ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, which has up to 8 inputs. So truth be told, I use a terrible green screen on purpose so that people can see what my family room looks like. I have that, and I have a whole bunch of other cameras. Now, unfortunately, today's a lousy day in Atlantic City, which is where my office is. So you can't see a whole lot today. That's resorts. There's the Ferris wheel. But I also have the ability to play back some other inputs. So if let's see, where am I? 7. I go to here, turn that off. But that is a playback of a HyperDeck studio HD that I have, that I recorded some video that was just, I just saw it on the camera that was pointed at the ocean and recorded these guys running around. The ocean actually looks similar to that today. But I also have the ability to show people like the software. Oops, wrong one. Sorry. But I have software that I can show on my off my other computer, because I have multiple computers, which is kind of funny, that I can do this. This is another computer that shows what I'm doing with the cameras, right? So I can control all of them and run macros and do all those kinds of things through the software. But then I have the ability to basically control any of the cameras that I need to control. Let's see, I could probably zoom that out a little bit, and you can see there's the streets of wet Atlantic City. So
I'm in Philly, so he's 60 miles east of me, and
that's right.
We're getting hit with the very tail end of Hurricane Ian, although it's not a hurricane anymore.
No, it's just brought inches and inches of rain. That's for certain, and down here it's been quite wet. But in the past, I was using one of these, which is an ATEM Mini Pro ISO when that came out. So, and then our latest one is an SDI.
So that takes what, 6 HDMIs in?
So that one has 4 HDMI in. This is the new ATEM Mini Extreme ISO SDI. So this has 8 inputs and 4 outputs for SDI, right? So in case people need those a little closer, I think it's in focus that way. So I have that too. But one of the tricks that I talk about, and the PR team thinks I have stock, but I don't. I use a StreamDeck. A lot of people have StreamDecks, but don't know that I'm sure you do. But a lot of people don't know that they work with the ATEM so well, but they really do. There's a free software called Companion, and that helps. It's hard enough for me. I'm a TD, actually. I still do every once in a while. They drag me back in to TD something, so I've done, Jimmy Buffett concerts and award shows and things like that. Oh, nice. So, but that's you punching buttons while a director's calling the show. But when I'm supposed to talk, chew gum, and press cameras, the right ones, I still get it wrong even with the StreamDeck. So you just it helps to have some tools like that. That's for sure.
Yeah, Faith in the Glitch is a DJ who we interviewed who is using, largely all your stuff. And he had it just set. Once he goes live, every 45 seconds it switches cameras. He touches nothing. That's the deal, right? It's switching cameras. People get different views of him, and it is what it is. He touches. He's got it all programmed up, and it goes.
It's a great way to do that. Even when I do trade shows, I'll set up macro up just to change sources on its own, so that at least something's changing on the screen, right? So it's a similar thing you could do for him. And again, if you're especially if you're gaming, you're thinking about other things. And that's really where the ATEM Mini, believe it or not, that's where it got its start, was the idea that we were going to build something. We're building a switcher for people who didn't really know what a switcher was. They just knew they needed to put 2 images on a screen at the same time. So we said, this way they could show the output of their gaming console and then have another shot of them actually playing up in the corner, picture in picture. So that's how it all got started. And then, of course, it exploded with this pandemic.
Right. Okay, so you really were aiming it at like the live streamer from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, we added tool. Originally, all it did, like the ATEM Mini, didn't work. It didn't live stream itself. You had it became the webcam output for you to put into your computer. So your computer is going to stream, and it just says, "Oh, which webcam do you want? The built-in camera or the Blackmagic?" So that's the way we got started with that. Eventually, we got it so that you could actually stream directly out of the ATEM Minis, the more advanced ones. But that was the idea. Was we thought we would enable people who needed a switcher but didn't even know what a switcher was. They just wanted to be able to switch between a couple things, and here we are.
Right. So do you know of any really big names, people, streamers, whatever, that are using your gear? Can we talk about that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I was just talking to the guys in Australia, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, we were up late last night. We went to see Billie Eilish." And I thought, you guys don't look like Billie Eilish fans, but they were, mostly because they were going to see them use our gear. They went to see what the guys were doing. We knew about it as they were on tour. They have our cameras and switchers. I mean, they have a lot of Blackmagic gear, so they went to see them. So that was kind of cool. There's a Life is Beautiful and Outside Lands Festival, and that was all using Ursa Mini Pro, which is 12K, which is our top of the line camera. And then the Billboard Women in Music Awards used the Ursa Broadcast G2s, which is our new cameras. And those are the same cameras actually that they're using on the Billie Eilish tour. But the amazing number of people that were like started to stream during the pandemic, musicians and comedians, like everybody.
Yeah.
It was really wild. And then what I found also interesting is a lot of people would contact us to ask about things, and then they were trying to help their church or their school or help a teacher, and all that. It just became, I did a class one day showing people how to use the software with like 60 teachers from Georgia, because they were going to give them all ATEMs so they could switch between a camera and their computer with the program that they, the lessons that they wanted to do. So it was wild how we kind of hit basically every area. Anybody that's doing anything on a screen was starting to reach out to us. So
which is everyone, right, these days. All right,
it's not going away.
Yeah. So your work lets you go to concerts to observe.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I've done some observing, and then sometimes I get pulled into duty. So I did
that's the danger of these things.
Well, yes, I've been on vacation, and my wife's like, "Oh, look, they have Blackmagic stuff." I'm like, "We're going to keep walking, or we're going to be here for a while," because, but I only do that on vacation. But it's amazing to me, the people I run into. I was going through TSA one day, and I had my shirt on, and the guy says, Blackmagic, you guys make the cameras. And I was like, wow, that's cool. The security guards know. Who knew?
So our first product was Connectify Hotspot, which is software that turns a window PC into a Wi-Fi router. And one of my co-founders was on a train in India on vacation, and she just flips up the Wi-Fi on her phone, and she sees a Connectify hotspot that doesn't go away. And so the people she's traveling with us, you should look around and see who's running your software on this train. And she says, are you kidding me? What if they want customer support? What if they're not happy? I'd be trapped on the train with them. I'm on vacation. And she hunkered down.
Right.
No one recognized her. She got off the train.
Right. Yeah. There's you have to pick your timing that you can do those things. And vacation's a terrible time to try and volunteer for those But it doesn't make me less curious. Anytime I see any camera or any type of production whatsoever, I'm looking around to see what they have, just to just to satisfy my own curiosity. But that's because I've been in this business since 1811, I think, is when I started, something like that.
So what's your favorite part of working for a live production company?
Right. So when I did a lot of live production stuff, I was always a big fan of directing or TDing, or sometimes combination of both, because you're kind of calling all the shots. Although, if I wanted to relax, I'd run camera.
TD is tech director.
Technical director. So the technical director is the guy that actually punches the buttons. The director says, ready, 1, take 3. And then the guy has to listen carefully and make sure he hits 3 and not 1. So that's what the technical director does. So a lot of times, some places you can direct and TD at the same time. So you just call it and you hit the buttons. But a lot of the bigger stuff, you get a director who's just there looking at the monitors, figure out what he wants to go to next, and then the technical director makes it happen, basically. I used to like running camera a lot, though, too, because what I didn't realize until about a few years ago, because I was sort of semi-dyslexic, when they would say, pan right, I would automatically go left, which is panning right.
Stage left versus stage right. Yeah.
It's all that, right? I was like, whatever they said, up, down, whatever, I was doing it correctly, but probably in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe I got that wrong. But it's like, nope, I was going because most of the time someone will say pan right, and they say, no, your other right, because people move their hands to the right and not the lens to the right, which is the way you have to do it. So so I was always pretty fascinated being able to do that. But it's interesting because I get to touch on some places that do different sporting events just to observe and whatnot. And of course, I don't mind being in front of the camera either, because I can talk all day, as you will find out.
Yeah. So in college, I did a lot of kind of tech directing of musicals and dance shows. And at the time, my brain thought in stage left, stage right. Like, never occurred to me you might mean my left.
Right. Well, correct. And that's why
but by now I'm probably pretty confused about it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Don't give me directions, because you better use your arms. Otherwise, I'm not going to figure it out. Yeah. I take directions better if somebody goes like that than all right, that's 2 up, 1 over. And yeah. But it is funny to me how many people we run across now with the various products, and sometimes it's for their home use, and sometimes it's for their day job, and sometimes it's for both. And it's just
once you have all this equipment for work, you might as well stream at night, right?
Yeah, I haven't done much. Our first Zoom calls with the family, I was bringing lights and multiple cameras and whatever, and then I realized nobody cared. No one could even tell the difference, and I was just stressing out for no reason. And then eventually I would fool them with the green screen and start, putting this over my head and things like that, and making myself disappear and see if they paid attention. But most of the time I spent trying to tell them to not shoot out the window and use headphones or use a microphone, and put foam. Like, I have 4 inches of foam on top of my desk right now, just to try and deaden sound, so that I can sound pretty good.
Yeah, I have a sound absorbing blanket hanging right behind the camera.
I tell everybody the same thing: hang your coat behind your camera or your computer or whatever, and you will sound so much better. It's just the fact. You record voiceovers in your closet because it's full of clothes.
So, changing topics, I read a funny thing that your CEO, Grant Petty,
yes,
is it true he is actually a programmer and still writes code today?
He still writes code. He writes tools for the company that run the company practically. A lot of our manufacturing, because we do our own manufacturing, and he writes all the tools that take care of parts and inventory and all these kind of things. So yeah, he's been a coder for a long time, and loves writing those tools to keep us going. So because he wants things that are specific to what he wants to see and not some off-the-shelf package type thing. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. All right. I like that. I think a lot of people would suggest he has better things to do, but
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's sometimes I think it's like a
You want
side
things done
project
right.
thing that he does,
Yeah.
and he's always engaged. And I think it makes him pay attention to some of the other things that go on. Meanwhile, one of the other guys in the company wrote our own operating system. So all of our products run on the Blackmagic operating system, which makes
Really?
it so much easier. Oh, yeah. And that's very cool because it makes it easier for new products to be developed because then they're just running like an app specific to the tools of that product and not having to worry about the rest of it. So, the operating system.
Is it a form of Linux or is it entirely an operating system?
It's something else. I don't know. One of our WizKid guys came up with his own thing that basically solved the problems that other people were having trying to do, other integration with other operating systems. And it made it a lot easier for us to do user interfaces. So the same UI team that does the user interface looks can basically work on all the products and make them look similar. So if you go up to, one of our cameras, any of the cameras, you're going to know how to run it. If you ever ran a Blackmagic camera, you'll know how to run all the other ones. And that's very important because that's not the way it is with a lot of companies.
Yeah. Some RBS, do Blackmagic products let you use other software on them? Like, could I bond a connection from Blackmagic through Speedify? I guess there's two different questions.
Well, let's see. So the Blackmagic hardware products, I mean, they don't really care what they go into. So a lot of people will use ATEM Mini as an output to go into whatever other software platform that wants to do streaming or
you can
whatever.
get like RTMP out of it, right?
We can do that. We can just make it look like a webcam. So it just appears as a webcam choice of any other software, whether it's, I don't know, OBS or, any of the streaming platforms. So there's definitely a lot of integration there. And then funnily enough, like DaVinci Resolve, that's software that we make, but we deal with every other camera manufacturer. So, and even the other non-linear editors, we're able to round trip between all of them too. So we do a lot of, we're definitely not a closed society. We have a lot of products so you could make your own little Blackmagic world, but at the same time, everybody's welcome. We have our own codec for recording called Blackmagic Raw, and that's available for other camera manufacturers to record on our devices or whatever, or other NLEs to use it. So and that's free of charge. There's no licensing fee or any of that stuff.
Nice. And so Speedify, by the way, in answer to the second part, just looks like an internet connection. So really anything that uses the internet can be fooled into using Speedify with no modification whatsoever. So yes, our products work together great.
Otherwise it would be an awkward conversation.
Yeah. And now faith in the glitch I know is, right? As I mentioned him before, he had the ATEM Mini switching between cameras, and then he feeds it through Speedify. So he's able to hang, a couple cell phones off, and as long as something's still connected, he's still live, right? So his Wi-Fi can fail, and he uses the cell phones and all that stuff.
Right.
Nice. All right. So do you work with so these companies doing production, like how much do you guys work with them? Like, do you just sell them product, or do you actually help them design their setups?
Well, I mean, it depends on who it is. So because we don't sell our products direct, we don't normally get involved with a lot of that. But between us all, we all know a bunch of people and they reach out to us. And so we get involved with them asking questions about what's the best camera for this and that. And then they'll give us feedback on things and, ask for features. Everybody asks for different features. And, 100 years ago, I think it was a long time ago that one of the networks said, we want to be able to name, instead of an IP address for every ATEM, we also want to put a name on it so that if you went into a list, you didn't have to know the IP address. You would just know it was control room 7 that you were trying to get to, and that's control room 7. And eventually we added that kind of capability because they would have like one panel that would talk to whatever switcher they decide to dial in. And it could be up to 10 different ones. So this way they had names. It was easier to do. So yeah, we do a lot of that. And then, because I know so many people, they reach out and find me and say, "Hey, can you help us with the Blackmagic?" Which is always funny because that's the name of the company, not a product. But I always say, "Can you be more specific?" you know, can get
You're
into
like
a product
Kleenex.
category. Yeah, right, exactly. I'm like, can we get to a product category, maybe? You know, a switcher, router, converter. What are we talking about? Cameras, you know. But I think that what I find the most fun is being able to run into different people that I know from walks of life, you know, gone by. I worked in Hollywood for years. I worked in New York City for a while before I got into the manufacturing side of things. And then, of course, that just you get to meet people from all over the world, basically, which is fun because sometimes I go through shows and I see people. I'm like, boy, why do I know that guy? You know, and then you read his tag and you're like, why do I know a guy from Louisiana? Oh, now I know because we took a class together or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's just crazy how all that how the world gets smaller over time. But yeah, so it depends on you know, different people get involved. But I think what I found the best thing that's happened over the last few years is people sharing their setups. We have a forum on our website that people go in and they say, you know, whenever somebody asks a question, because a lot of times people ask questions about third-party devices that it's not really our forte to know about other people's products that work with our stuff.
Yeah.
And so when they ask those questions, then people say, oh yeah, I know 3 people that do that, or I do that. And that's what I use. I use that lens. I use that whatever. And that has been great to watch other people share the information that because at the end of the day, it's really better if a guy who's doing it every day recommends something rather than me saying it, because although I use it every day, it's a little different.
Yeah. So what do you think is the coolest Blackmagic Design product?
Boy, well, you know, there was a product that we made years ago called the ATEM camera converter, and it basically took the output of a camera, put it on fiber, and ran it down to another converter so that you could run fiber as long as you had fiber. And it was an inexpensive way to do it. And the reason I thought it was so cool at the time was because I needed those things like 25 years earlier when we were doing some remote work at a TV station I was at, and they took our truck because they had to go cover something else suddenly. And we were out there trying to wire things together. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at these things. If those things had existed for $500 a piece or whatever they were, we'd have bought 100 of them. It wouldn't have mattered, you know? But so sometimes it's the little strange things that we come up with that make you go, oh, now that is really cool. That's somebody paying attention. And that was definitely one of those products where it came out of nowhere and it was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But since then, with the cameras, I say it all the time, between the cameras and the switchers, if I didn't work at Blackmagic, I'd have them. I would be buying them because I would be using them. And, you know, because they're realistic. When I was in college, great example, which was, you know, last century, deep into it. But we were approved my senior year to get a new production switcher, right? It was $65,000 or something crazy like that, which wasn't even that good a switcher at the time, but it was a lot of money. When I came back senior year, I said, oh, what happened to the switcher? And they said, oh, well, they added a pool onto the gym. They added an indoor pool onto the gym for the same $65,000. Now that pool is still there. So they made the right choice. But lo and behold, I was up in the Northeast Pennsylvania because it was University of Scranton. And a guy showed up at the meeting that I was speaking at and said, hey, I'm from the university. You should come up and see. And I walk in and it's all Blackmagic. And I just like, whoa, that's really cool.
Nice.
I said, and you didn't have to spend $65,000 on all this product.
Yeah. I mean, all this stuff got so much cheaper.
Yeah, definitely.
So storage. I mean, obviously video uses so much storage.
Yeah.
So I guess, how did you handle it before the cloud? I guess before we moved to cloud offerings.
So, well, right. So Blackmagic always made some recording devices. Hyperdecks was our big recording devices, multiple versions of those. They would record on SSD drives and SD cards and things like that. Then with the SSD drives models, we made a thing called a multi-dock. We've had a couple versions of that where you basically, it's Thunderbolt connection, so you can put the SSDs in there and dock it to a computer, And because the SSDs are fast, you
box
can
full of hard drives.
Yeah, but you can edit off of it, right? So you can edit off of them because they're fast, and that was helpful. Now we have we're coming out with this new storage, the cloud stores, which are what are they? 20 terabyte, 80 terabyte, and 320 terabyte. For shareable storage with 10 gig ports and things like that for multiple people to share collaboratively inside the same building. But then in addition, now we have the ability through DaVinci Resolve to actually move files back and forth to people using either Dropbox or Google Drive or, so that has become, but storage is always an issue, and two reasons. One, the size, the amount you need, but when you're using Resolve for editing and color grading, you need fast storage, which is why we got into the game. Just buying any old drives isn't really going to be the performance that you need with the size of files today and the speed that you want to, because people say, oh, the DaVinci's slow. It's like, well, DaVinci's not slow. Your hard drives are slow. So that's really the thing. So it's amazing how it's evolved. And I mean, my first computer I bought in 1988. I went on a game show, win, lose or draw. I won some money. I bought a leading edge computer, and I had a 20 meg hard drive, and there was no way you could fill a 20 meg hard drive back then, which was true. The computer was obsolete before I filled the actual hard drive on it. But I was a big shot.
You weren't even doing audio, right?
I was doing anything. I was writing. All you could do then was you couldn't even. I was just typing a script. That was all you could do. There was nothing. I'm trying to even remember if there were any games. I don't even think so. It was no color monitor. It was amber or green or whatever. I mean, it's just it was so far back in time that I remember when Avid, which is, their nonlinear editor, that came out in the early 90s, I guess. And I remember somebody saying, well, eventually, whatever you put in, you'll get out. Like, you'll put in uncompressed video and you'll get uncompressed video out. And I said, all right, well, let me know when that happens. Now, it took a while.
Yeah.
It took a long time before it actually happened, but it did, and it does. And that's what we do today. And so that's a whole different evolution. I went to editing school to learn how to use all the equipment in the edit suites at the Disney Channel. And, you need a whole room full of equipment. The only way to get trained was to go to the manufacturer and spend 2 weeks learning how to use it and all that stuff. And now today, the thing you can download for free from our website is so much more powerful than that and does so many more things, and it's free. And I don't know how that happened, but.
Ooh. All right. We have another
the
question
evolution
here.
Uh-oh.
From Mills. Hi, what's Blackmagic's design stance on reliability and repairability? Some devices seem to have a kind of bad reputation. That wouldn't want to throw an ATEM when there are $500 worth of components on the board. Right. So
I'm not quite sure what.
So do you if somebody breaks their ATEM Mini, can they get it fixed?
It all depends. I mean, when it's I guess it all depends on the case, right? So if it's within warranty, then that's a real easy one. If it's out of warranty, some things can actually be repaired that we can do the repairs on. Other things can't, in which case we'll usually see what we can do about either getting them buying a new unit, or getting one of our B stocks or something like that. I mean, it's kind of a catch by
in
case
case
by case
one
thing.
port fails. I guess he's had one.
Well, it all depends. It all depends on the product itself. So a lot of them are more repairable than others. There was a time when we couldn't do certain repairs on like the original cameras, but then over time we were able to do more repairs on the cameras as we got into different versions and models. So it's really right now, I think we have 200 products, so it'd be tough to go through them all and figure out which one does what. But
okay,
yeah, some of
what
them
should he do? Should he reach out to support?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean that's the first place to go is go to support if you have a problem with something. By all means, yeah. Yep.
All right. Ryan says, "What did you do at the Disney Channel?" That's a good question.
Ha! So first I started off as a master control operator, which is the guy that puts all the programs on the air. So I worked from midnight to 10 a.m. 4 days a week, and then eventually I became an editor there. And then I went to another place after that called 525, where we made music videos, and we worked with all the crazy people that did music videos in the 90s that were on Warner Brothers Records, which was basically everybody. I mean, it was insane the number of people that came through there. It was Madonna, Michael Jackson, Prince,
and music videos were such a big deal.
There was a thing then that they were an actual thing.
It's hard to explain now.
Yeah. I mean, if you go back and look at some of those that were done, the budgets were huge. They all shot on film. They did, it was just, the directors that directed music videos back then are guys that make feature films now, right? So it's crazy how that all worked. But and then suddenly music videos went away, and I don't know. It's a whole new world. We used to buy physical media back then too.
So I remember, right, MTV. Old people being like, "Can you believe kids these days? Their attention span's so short, they can only watch 4-minute long videos."
And today, it's 10 seconds.
Who could sit through a 4-minute video, like 90 seconds tops?
I could not sit through. There was the 25th anniversary of a Metallica video that I worked on, and I started to watch it, and then I was like, "Oh, well, that's enough." Like I couldn't. I don't know. You're right. You get to the point where people send me links all the time for videos, and I'm like, "How long is it?" "Oh, I don't know if I have time for that." It's 4 minutes. I'm like,
I tell you, 90 seconds. That's my attention span these days.
Right. Yeah. I 90 seconds sounds like a good one. Yeah, I laugh because I used to work on commercials, 30-second commercials, and it was painstaking because it was, every frame was important and you'd work on that. And then when I found out some guys then moved on to like movies, I was like, movies? Are you kidding me? Who could work on a project that takes that long? Hours long? No way. So
confusing, right?
Yeah.
Yes. My wife and I really liked the new Dune movie. We just pretended it consisted of 40-minute episodes. Every 40 minutes, we were like, "That was a good one," and turned it off. Came back a couple of weeks. We spent a whole weekend watching that movie, and we thought it was fantastic.
Well, I think it is funny because the whole way we watch content, for lack of a better term, is so amazing. We were watching something. My wife and I were watching something, and it was like, "Oh, live. What are we supposed to do?" I'm like, "I know. I can't fast forward. I can't. I don't know what we're supposed to do. We could pause it, and then we could go do some things, and then come back and try and speed up the process of watching. I don't know."
No offense to the 250 people watching us. I mean, obviously, this is great content, and we see why
because you don't know what's coming. That's different, right? You don't know what's coming. That's a different thing. But I don't know about you, but if I'm watching television, I'm also looking at my computer and maybe my iPad all at the same time. And back in the day, I couldn't even think about being distracted from only watching one thing. But this is how the world has developed. I mean, when the news network started putting crawls in the bottom of screens, at first I was like, "What are they doing with all this content?" Now it's like, how come there isn't a crawl on every screen so I could just keep looking at,
do something. Yeah.
We're better at it, I guess. Yeah.
I don't know if we are.
Well,
I do
think we're
appreciate
better
my
at it.
Kindle, which has nothing, right? Once I'm looking at the Kindle, I just have to read.
that does help. That's for sure. What's going on in the chat? I don't know if people are chatting to us or without us.
Yeah. All right. We'll soon come full circle. Now, social media videos are allowed to be long. Yeah. I guess, maybe the videos are going to get longer now.
They could, as long as you're able to watch it when you want to watch it, which is what most people seem to be. That seems to be the real thing that people like to do, is to watch when they want to watch and not have to wait a week for the next episode. But
and you miss that episode, and it might be years. It might be years till it comes back, right?
Totally, yeah. I mean, that was crazy. That you would, if you missed an episode, and you're like, "Well, I guess I'll never see it," unless I got lucky with a rerun or something.
All right, so let's come back to advice for any. setup advice for live streamers who are just getting started.
Sure.
Right?
So, right.
What do you have for us?
I mean, for me, so there's a couple things you need to do. One is, as much as this is a visual medium, if your audio is no good, you're no good, right? I mean, that's just the fact, right? I can look great, but if you can't hear me and understand me, then you're out. We don't make microphones, but sound deadening stuff, which could be just a blanket or foam or whatever it is, you experiment with that. It's a lot better. Where, earbuds or headphones or whatever, especially if you're doing a two-way conversation, because the last thing you need is everybody hearing everybody else, through the speakers. I'm still amazed that we're getting feedback this long into it. It's like, oh my gosh, what did we start today? Why are people so terrible at this? So, I mean, those are the basics. Then lighting is always important. Having some light, good camera, those are really the basics. But to me, if you got to get your audio, start off with good audio, and then the rest of it can fill in.
I have a Yeti Blue mic here.
There you go.
Which I'm very happy with. And then, the blankets. Actually, I've got foam on the walls on each side. I've got carpet on the floor, and then I've got blanket there. This is a real brick wall behind me, which is terrible for audio, but I've got every other surface covered.
It looks good.
So it's
right.
cool,
But
right?
like I have these squares. If I have one of these, I probably have 50 of them. I don't know. They're everywhere. I just put them in places and hope it helps.
Yeah, I can see 24. I can see 24 of those right now from here. Right. Just to give you a sense.
Right. I believe it. And it just, curtains help. All kinds of anything that's sound deadening. It was funny. We moved our house, moved houses about a year ago, I guess. And when we left my closet, which was pretty small, when we emptied it all out, it had an echo in it. And I was like, I said to my wife, see, this is what I mean. If you're in your closet with all those clothes, there's no echo. You don't hear anything. But you empty it, and guess what? Sound bounces around the hard surfaces, and then that's the end of it. So, connectivity is if you don't have good bandwidth, then you're out. Talk to the right people.
That's right. Speedify, we're here for you, man.
That's right. I mean, that's another thing. If they can't see you, they're never going to hear you. So.
Another question from Mills.
Yep.
With the chip shortage, any war stories? How are you able to deliver any ATEMs during the pandemic at all? Did you order the right amount of components before lockdown?
So, truthfully, we. I'm not going to say we. I'm going to say Grant was very aware of the potential problems that were coming, and knew the parts that were coming in, and pivoted to be able to make the products that we knew we could make as much as we could, because we're like a year ahead anyway or more. So he definitely did a lot of that. I mean, we always have some delays somewhere sometimes it's not just parts too, it's other parts of it. Like we weren't getting regular shipments out of some of the factories because flights weren't leaving, right? A lot of shipments wound up going on commercial airlines. Well, commercial airlines aren't flying. Guess what? So nonstop flights from Singapore or wherever weren't really happening. They had to go through other areas to get to us, so that didn't help. But we, overall, we did fairly well compared to a lot of other people, and that was just his ability to forecast properly and know where we're going to be. And that's definitely been something that everybody learned to appreciate because when I would say something like, some things are backlogged, and people are like, I don't have any product. I'm like, sorry to hear that. What can I tell you? But yeah, so that's
so you guys did survive that thanks to Grant's planning. Is that
absolutely? I think we sold more product during the pandemic that year or two than we did before. So yeah, that's a we also came out with some things. I see another question about frames per, and it's true.
Frames per second matter when live
streaming?
Well,
the thing about it is the more frames per second you put out, the more bandwidth intensive it is. So there's kind of like that happy medium. I'm a big 30 frame per second person, I think, because it kind of, reduces the truth is, unless you're doing sports, it's not like, I don't know if I might have missed a blink because you didn't have 60 frames per second. So yeah, there's some of that. But so you do want to kind of be in a trying to be conscious of your bandwidth. That's all, because like people, I could stream 8K. Well, you could, but no one's going to watch it, or they're just going to watch a spinning wheel of death. So that doesn't really.
So we're at 30 right now. Just
Sure.
for those wondering,
See that?
This stream is at 30. So
30 is very television friendly. It's kind of the way people think of it. 60 is more sports oriented. That's where people get into doing 60. But unless you're, I don't know, doing a kung fu show or something, I don't think you need to.
So Mike follows up with, I mean, frames per second in terms of video vibe quality, right? 24 frames per second is movies.
Oh.
So there's that whole weird thing, right? That 24 frames per second is what movies are. So people think things are high quality, supposedly, when they see 24 frames per second, even though it's like, from any technical point of view, it's terrible. It's
well, and again, you get into a lot of, there's a lot of weird things that can happen depending on what you ultimately watch it on too, right? So you'll see some weird movie things that happen because, like car commercials where the wheels go backwards because, when they were capturing it, it captures at the wrong frame rate. And
Nyquist.
There's no easy answer on any of that. And even like the 24 frames per second versus 23.98 and the 29.97 and drop frame and non-drop frame, and I can get in. I mean, just some of the nightmares of past woes. But but to me, if you're going to shoot a movie, you shoot 24 because if it's going to go theatrical, that's really the way to go. But
what movie was I watching where it started with Tom Cruise coming on and saying, "Please turn off the motion smoothing on your TV."
it's a thing, and that is it's similar to
Tom.
The way people set up the color on their TVs. People are like, oh, look at my TV. They'll say to me, well, you work in TV, look at my TV, and I'm like, oh, it looks horrific, but I'm not going to say it. I'm like, what settings do you have? Why does it look so bad? People they think, just boost up all the color, it's going to look great. It's like,
so the really surprising thing to me is how bad the audio is on TVs, right? That you have to buy the external speaker. Like, why are there no? But anyway,
I think because of size, they went for the slim trim look of televisions. Like, well, where do we put the speakers? Don't worry about those. They'll put it on their own sound system afterwards.
Well, it was a funny thing because I actually never noticed how bad the sound was on the TV until I went over a friend's house who had the speakers connected. And then I noticed and I came back and my TV was terrible and I had to go get speakers.
Well, the truth is all the TVs now, TVs in the old days when I was a kid, they faced you. The speakers went this way, but the speakers now go backwards because they don't have any room in the front to put the speaker.
Right, because the screen has to come right to the edge, right?
Yeah, the bezel on the edge is so small, so the speakers are actually behind the screen, and it's like, well, that's a perfect place to put them. That's a terrible idea. So that's where you get that. Yeah.
All right. So Mills is back and asks, can you imagine forays into new product categories like audio, networking, and other stuff like that?
Well, I don't know where we're going, and we don't like to talk about where we're going because that's the way it works. But there's a lot of things that we do. I mean, we have audio in terms of the Fairlight audio software, which is not only in the ATEM, it's in DaVinci Resolve, but also in the ATEM software too. It's found its way there. So we definitely do some of that networking-ish. Now we have storage that has 10 gig ports on the back. I guess we're kind of jumping in there too. So yeah, I always say, watch this space. You never know what's coming next from Blackmagic.
Nice. All right. Too many. That's the motion capture he's talking about. Too many TVs have that on.
Oh yeah.
Why don't TVs just have built-in Bluetooth already? So
I thought some of
I'm really happy with the Roku TVs. Right.
Right.
They're on the Wi-Fi. You can use the app to control them, and if you're using the app to control them, then you can actually use the Bluetooth in your phone, and you can listen to your TV on your AirPods.
Which is a great idea because I'm getting deaf, so I'm going to start having to use those.
So nice. Yeah. All right, we are running out of time here.
Wasn't sure if you had a hard out or not.
I don't really.
Oh, good.
So we can keep going for a few minutes if you'd like.
Well, I have to get going at some point, but I still have a few minutes. I don't want anybody.
All right,
to,
we'll go for 5 more
miss
minutes.
their
All
question.
right.
Yeah, sure.
Mike says, "Great show, Blackmagic Design. You are awesome. Great insight
Mm.
to so many topics."
Thanks for having me. This is all fun. I like
So do you have any program for developers? Like, can people write add-ons and stuff to your products? How does that work?
Yeah, we have SDK, so software developer kits for several of our products with hooks for people to get in. So like the ATEM software is a perfect example of that. We put our Blackmagic Raw SDK so people can use our Blackmagic Raw codec and things. So there are some codecs for different products that people can go in and do. So people do some pretty amazing work. It's sort of how the StreamDeck is able to have the companion software to control the ATEMs, because we provide all those hooks for people to get in there and create their own special interfaces and things like that. So again, that's part of the openness that we talked about earlier about how Blackmagic, we want everybody to be enabled by, all the things that we make and enable people to, create cool stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's coming next?
Ha! I don't know.
Anything for you if you can't tell us Blackmagic secrets?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing a lot more shows lately, so we'll be in different places. I think TwitchCon is in San Diego this weekend, so there'll be people there. NAB New York. NAB New York is up in New York. Good place for it. In a couple of weeks, I think it's the 18th or 17th, 18th, somewhere around there, mid October. And so we're out and about in the field again, which has been cool for sure.
That's good. All right. Well, thank you so much. I think this was fantastic. I know I learned a lot of things. It seems like we had some good interaction. There's the scrolling ticker underneath has some upcoming episodes. So we're gonna have Chris Carson on October 6th, October 11th, Scott from Podworks on the 13th. We're gonna have Live You. Pretty exciting. So cool stuff. Tomorrow, a little earlier in the day, 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to do a stream with the engineers, and we are going to make an announcement. It's going to be very exciting. All right. So tune in tomorrow to see our big announcement, which I'd hoped to make today, but stuff happened.
I like it. Nice tease.
It'll be fun. Yeah, that's right. Quiet Galaxy. Great show. I love Blackmagic. Yep. So do I.
Yay.
That's why he's here. So cool. I think that's about it. So thanks again, Bob. This was awesome.
My pleasure. I hope to come back another time with cool news. Who knows?
Yeah. We'll totally have you back. Next product launch, huh?
All right.
All right.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.